Hi, this is a video about Stanley Kubrick and the Flat Earth Theory. If you are not familiar with both Stanley Kubrick and the Flat Earth Theory, this is not the video for you. So go play Pokemon Go, whatever you do. Anyway, if you do know about both these things, you might find this interesting. Let's begin at the beginning here. This man right here is Tycho Brahe. He was the first person that could prove we don't live on a globe. He was murdered by Johannes Kepler. He was poisoned with mercury. His research was stolen by this man, and it was used to create the first Gregorian calendar with leap year. Why is this important, and what does it have to do with Stanley Kubrick? Well, Kubrick gives you both these men in his movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. He gives you the Tycho magnetic anomaly, which is where the monolith is found. A monolith is a large flat stone. So this is the crater on the moon, named after Tycho Brahe, the man who could prove that we don't live on a globe. That's the crater he chooses to have the monolith found in. So that's interesting. Then we have, it's also the largest crater on the moon, by the way. It's always Jungian archetypes with Kubrick. Always the biggest, the largest, the fastest, whatever. This man stole this man's, Tycho's, research, and he created the first Gregorian calendar. From that point on, it was a globe. So in 1582, we had the Mercator projection. It has not changed since then. So that's very odd. So he gives you these two men. These are like the flat Earth nucleus of the whole flat Earth conspiracy theory. These two men are at the direct center of it, and he chooses to include the Clavius moon base, which is named after this guy, which was also located in the Clavius crater named for this guy. And in 2001: A Space Odyssey, he actually mentions the IEU, or IAU, International Astronomical Union. And one of the women talks about, we're going to go to the big international blah, 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 IAU pavilion. Do you want to go, Dr. Floyd? And he refuses. He's too busy. But this is the union that names these craters, the Clavius crater and the Tycho crater. So it was interesting he mentions that as well. So let's go beyond that. So you have the two people most involved with the flat Earth theory. Then we go right to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and this picture right here is a picture of Dave Bowman and Frank Poole working on the AE-35 unit. This is the unit that Hal says is failing. Well, the AE-35 unit in reality is actually a real gyro, because here's a picture of a real gyro right next to it, and the similarities are uncanny. It's clearly a gyro. It's the gyro that controls the parabolic antenna on the Discovery spacecraft. It keeps it oriented toward Earth. So Hal says the gyro is failing. These guys test it. They can't find anything wrong with it. It's great allegorically, because when we do the gyro tests to prove the rotation on Earth, the gyro never rotates. So it looks like there's something wrong with the gyro, but there's nothing wrong with the gyro. We don't rotate. So this is very clever. That's another little Kubrickian breadcrumb. So there's the AE-35 unit. Nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't work. Same thing. This is a real jet plane gyro, believe it or not. Let's go to the tides. Here we have Clockwork Orange, and Clockwork Orange, we have little Alex. He gets out of the Ludovico clinic, and he's walking down, I think this is the Thames, I don't really know, it's somewhere in England. And he's walking down here, and he looks at one of the bridge pillars, and the scene cuts a split second later, the tide has dropped 10 feet. So you could say, well, it's a continuity error, but we're talking about Kubrick here. There's no such thing as a continuity error. Then we have, here's the prisoners walking in a circle, east to west, with a large pyramid over them. Isn't that interesting? Not that that's related to flat Earth, but I thought that was interesting. Then we have the AE, or we have the Mercator projection and Dr. Strangelove. It's all over the wall. The big board. They'll get a look at the big board. So we have that. Then we have the bathrooms. Well, let me not start the bathrooms yet. Let's go into this one real quick. This is a picture of Moon Watcher, is his name, by the way, and he's beating this animal. Now, in the movie, they lead you to believe that this is a tapir, a type of pig that he's beating. In reality, this is actually a horse skeleton. This is a horse head here. You can look this up online. It's actually a horse head. So he's beating the dead horse. It's very clever. Then we have the fisheyes, NASA's go-to lens. When Felix Baumgarten did his, stupid balloon thing there, the first thing they did is pulled out the fisheye to give you the globular look. So Kubrick wanted a way to hide this in his movie. So what he did is he used a fisheye in every scene in this movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Some of them are so subtle you don't even notice them. Like this one here, he had the camera destructively modified to mount this ridiculous fisheye lens on here. So he's giving you lots of different ways he's communicating the fisheye story. This is just one of them, and the whole movie is a fisheye. Look, next time you watch it, look at straight objects when they're in the spaceship. You'll notice they all have a little curve to them because of the fisheye. Here's another one. This is a really good one. This is Frank Poole and Dave Bowman. Bowman is an archer, just like Apollo the archer, and Poole is where they film all the NASA stuff in the swimming pool. So they're testing the AE-35 gyroscope, which is not failing, and Hal is watching them through the fisheye. Very clever. Then we have the Minotaur picture. I like to call it. Kubrick loves to use Greek allegorical. It is the 2001: A Space Odyssey. So we're talking about Greek odysseys here. So you look at this. The Greek Odyssey that comes to mind immediately when I see this is the Minotaur. We have half man, half bull. And of course it's all viewed through the fish eye. This scene is actually repeated again. We see the same kind of bull thing. He's giving you the Minotaur allegory and Theseus and the magic thread and the Corona Borealis. Let's go to, okay, so here's the azimuthal equidistant map. This is the AE-35 unit, what it was named after. This is where you really live. This white snow that you see surrounding you is represented by the laurel in the UN map. There's a big laurel wreath that goes around here. Coincidentally, Apollo also has a laurel wreath. I'm sure that's not related, but it is there. So we couldn't leave, we had the gyro, we've got Tycho, we've got Clavius, but we're missing Coriolis. So what Kubrick does is he includes a bathroom in every movie he does, and all the quintessential scenes happen in the bathroom. So let's go through a few of these. Oh, there's the UN map with the laurel. Let's go to this one. Here we go. There's the bathroom scene with the old lady. There's the bathroom scene in 2001: A Space Odyssey. He's sitting on the tub, right where you would notice the Coriolis effect if you drained it. If the bathroom's in a photo metal jacket, this guy goes into his bathroom. This is his bathroom door right here, and he blows his brains out in the bathroom. He was talking about fluoride and fluoridated ice cream. So isn't that interesting? Then we have the room 237 bathroom with the attractive woman that's in it, and also we have, we've got the tub for Coriolis, the two sinks for Coriolis, and those a toilet bidet over here. So it's really the full Monty for Coriolis right there. Let's close that one. Let's close this one. Analyze. Then we have Ziegler in his bathroom with his whore, and Redhead no less. Redhead's a reclusette. We have the bidet and toilet, and right here out of the scene in this area is his huge tub. So this is actually his bathroom. It's not his bedroom, it's his bathroom. So we have another bathroom there. And we have, the Pyle blows his head off in the bathroom, sitting on the toilet. That's pretty good. So we have the ballistic Coriolis effect with the rifle and the Coriolis toilet, and he says, I'm in a world of shit. So you really are in a world of shit. Here is Barry Lyndon. We have Mrs. Lyndon in the bathtub. She's going to drain it. It's going to spin the right way for the Coriolis effect. Then we have Nicole on the crapper here and Eyes Wide Shut. We've got the sink, the toilet, the bathtub. Bada bing. There you go. We've got, there's this Pyle. He's had enough of Coriolis, I think. This is a good one. This is Dr. Floyd in the zero-G toilet. You can't even read it probably, but he's at the space station and he really has to take a crap. So he's reading the thing for the zero-G toilet, but there's like 14 steps. He ends up holding it. He goes later on because the Coriolis in the spinning space station would probably throw the shit in every direction. So, There's the TMA1 Tychomagnetic Anomaly. It's a movie theater, by the way. These are movie ramps that go down and watch the screen. Danny, of course, shines in the bathroom when he's looking at the mirror with his 42 jersey. 42 is 6 out of 7 continents are real. The seventh continent is the laurel wreath that surrounds you. And so they're always grabbing their balls. It's always about the ball. You got 8 balls, snowball fights. It goes on and on. Here we have little Alex taking his bath. I'm sure this drains the Coriolis direction. I'm sure of that. And the whole thing has really been controlled by secret societies since God knows when, since more than 500 years ago. So there's the zero-G toilet thing. This is interesting. We actually see real parallax out the window of the space station as it rotates, which is weird because we don't see real parallax in the night sky. Yeah, he's telling him, yeah, you ever wonder why I drink pure grain alcohol? And because there's no fluoride in it.
So you have this repeating theme. You have repeating themes of the Minotaur. You have the repeating theme of the Cyclops. The repeating theme of the Trojan horse. You have the repeating theme. So you're watching 2001, and you notice Hal has one eye. So there's your Cyclops. You're watching Arthur C. Clarke, and he's talking about how the monolith on the moon is actually a modern representation of the Trojan horse. Or you're watching the movie 2001 and you notice that the reflection off Hal's eye looks like a pair of horns, and they show a picture of Frank Poole and Dave Bowman, and the reflection off Hal's eye is the picture you get, and it superimposes a set of horns on, so we have the Minotaur. Then later on, we see the same shot, and we see one eye reflected in the center of it. That's the Cyclops. So Kubrick is giving you all the particular allegories he's going to be using later on. Of course, he's not using them yet. He has 13 movies to make. This is only the one of them. So he gives you the Minotaur, the Cyclops, the Trojan horse, which is the monolith. As soon as man finds a monolith on the moon, it triggers the I guess you could call the Star Child, or the next version of man is created. So it's interesting. You don't have to go far to find the allegory being used in his movies. Like, if you take the Minotaur myth, which is the Minotaur, which is the half man, half bull, and Theseus, who is the young man who's volunteers to slay the Minotaur. This is like Kubrick volunteering to do the moon missions, and the magic thread. So the beginning of the magic thread and the magic um, clues begins with the Minotaur in 2001: A Space Odyssey. We're given Frank Poole and Dave Bowman, and we're giving the horns and the fact that they're in the maze. So we fast forward from the 2001: A Space Odyssey into the movie The Shining, and we have an interview with Kubrick, and he talks about how Jack Nicholson represents the Minotaur, and Danny Lloyd represents Theseus, and he's walking backwards in his own footsteps, which represents the magic thread. So we're always looking for the magic thing um, from this point on, and it's through the magic thread that we locate all the other threads. And there's a lot of it. A picture is worth 1,000 words, so there's going to be at least 1,000. And to be honest with you, the Kubrick's language, it's like 1,000,000 words. So he can fit so many different things. Like, people have remarked that 2001: A Space Odyssey, for the first, I don't know how many minutes, there's no vocals, there's no it's completely silent. It's just music and video and images, and he can convey whatever he wants without using um, any text at all. No, there's no written word in the beginning of this movie. So you're armed with the bare minimum Yeah, like I said, you have the Trojan horse, which is the monolith. The monolith is the flat Earth. It's a large, single-hewn flat stone. Um, the monolith also goes into the monolithic Cyclopean construction we see all around the world. We see these massive, perfectly hewn, perfectly flat, straight stones making these walls that are 12 and 13,000 years old. Then we go to the Minotaur. That goes into Jack and Danny. That's the whole Shining thing. That's almost always is related to the moon missions and faking of the moon missions. And they go into the Donner Party. The Donner Party is another cannibalism clue. The Donner Party was spurned on by a foolish Masonic politician that there was a shortcut to California. There was no shortcut to California. It was a lie. He was just a boasting politician. Well, the Apollo astronauts were foolish enough to believe Kennedy, we choose to go to the moon.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things.
And do the other things. Never says what the other things are, by the way. And so they're spurned on by a foolish politician, and they end up, Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee all pay the price for that. So you have the Donner Party. They ate their own children. You have the NASA Apollo legacy. They ate their own children. They killed 3 men to keep the rest of them quiet. So throughout these movies that he makes, you'll find these particular allegorical stories, like the Cyclops. So in 2001, Hal has one eye, and he's a psychopathic killer. He premeditates Poole and Bowman's murder. And, when you find one, you go, okay, so they have the Minotaur myth with Theseus and the Minotaur and the magic thread supplied to him by Daedalus. So later on, when you go to the moon missions, and it's I think it's Apollo 15, they land on the moon, and one of the first craters they remark that they see, we see Icarus crater. Yeah, it's Apollo 15. What am I thinking? We can see Icarus crater. Well, Icarus crater is another Greek myth. It's Icarus flew too high against his father's warnings, and he hit the dome, and that was it. He was all done. So we go from there to Kubrick's first, last, and only public speech he ever gives in his entire life.
Good evening. I'm sorry not to be able to be with you tonight to receive this great honor of the D.W. Griffith Award. But I'm in London making Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. And just about this time, I'm probably in the car on the way to the studio, which, as it happens, reminds me of a conversation I had with Steven Spielberg about what was the most difficult and challenging thing about directing a film. And I believe Steven summed it up about as profoundly as you can. He thought the most difficult and challenging thing about directing a film was getting out of the car. I'm sure you all know the feeling. But at the same time, anyone who has ever been privileged to direct a film also knows that although it can be like trying to write War and Peace in a bumper car in an amusement park, when you finally get it right, there are not many joys in life that can equal the feeling. I think there's an intriguing irony in naming the Lifetime Achievement Award after D.W. Griffiths, because his career was both an inspiration and a cautionary tale. His best films will always rank among the most important films ever made, and some of them made him a great deal of money. He was instrumental in transforming movies from a Nickelodeon novelty to an art form, and he originated and formalized much of the syntax of movie making, now taken for granted. He became an international celebrity and his patronage included many of the world's leading artists and statesmen of the time. But Griffith was always ready to take tremendous risks in his films and in his business affairs. He was always ready to fly too high. And in the end, the wings of fortune proved for him, like those of Icarus.
Okay, overhead hatch is open and latched.
2 hours after touchdown, Dave Scott stood up in Falcon's upper hatch to survey their landing area.
Oh boy, what a view. I can see Pluton and Icarus. What a view. I can see Pluton and Icarus.
Tremendous risks in his films and in his business affairs. He was always ready to fly too high. And in the end, the wings of fortune proved for him, like those of Icarus, to be made of nothing more substantial than wax and feathers. And like Icarus, when he flew too close to the sun, they melted. And the man whose fame exceeded the most illustrious filmmakers of today spent the last 17 years of his life shunned by the film industry he had created. I've compared Griffith's career to the Icarus myth. But at the same time, I've never been certain whether the moral of the Icarus story should only be, as is generally accepted, don't try to fly too high, or whether it might also be thought of as forget the wax and feathers and do a better job on the wings. Forget the wax and feathers and do a better job on the wings. One thing, however, is certain. D.W. Griffith left us with an inspiring and intriguing legacy, and the award in his name is one of the greatest honors a film director can receive, something for which I humbly thank all of you very much.
Eye of the jade rabbit. So it's a one-eyed jackrabbit. It's a one-eyed jack. The sun. Now let's not go into that. But it's a repeating theme of one-eyed monsters. It's either the Cyclops, or it's Hal, or it's the moon is only a one-eyed jack, or it's the azimuthal equidistant map. This is the flat Earth clue. So when you hear the Cyclops in 2001: A Space Odyssey, really what you're looking at is a flat Earth clue. He's telling you that you live on a flat plane. There's one bullseye. It's called the North Pole. The South Pole surrounds you in a circle. It's flat. So this ties right into the all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. So it's all done with reversals. So work and play are opposites. Okay. And shiny and dull are opposites. One is shiny, one is dull. Well, if we try to come up with synonyms for these, we get shiny, dull. We get sharp, flat. We get sharp and dull. Sharp note, dull note. So if we take sharp and dull note, we have sharp note and flat note. And this ties into, there's been a lot of people that have done this little puzzle. If you go to, I think it's George Harrison, he has that song, "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." Well, his guitar is going flat. The notes are all going flat. So he's giving you clues to the flat Earth in a song that you'd have no idea is about flat Earth. So all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. So we have shiny, sharp, flat, dull. And shiny, sharp, dull as far as notes. Now remember, Apollo was a musician. He played the lira. So you're going to have musical clues in this puzzle as well. One of the hardest parts to get around in understanding this puzzle is the I think they call it normalcy bias. Someone has a moon mission normalcy bias that, oh no, this is the top of the heap. They would never lie about this. All right, I think I've gone far enough for part one. I don't want to drag this out too long, where it gets ridiculous. But this will be part one, and I'll make part two tomorrow or maybe this evening. A lot of this is rehashing what I went over like 2 years ago. But now that I have a better understanding of the language and how the Greek allegories are used and yada yada yada, it makes it easier to understand. And that's it, guys. Have a great night. If you liked it, thumb it up. If you really liked it, subscribe. Because I don't make, I'm demonetized. There's no way I'm not gonna make money off this. So that's it. Carpe diem. Have a good night, guys. Later.